Jin Min-jun looked out the window of his small ship as it moved toward the massive space station. The Galactic Council's main building was bigger than any city on Earth. Its metal walls sparkled with lights from 1,000 different worlds. Jin felt nervous, but he tried to stay calm. This was the most important day in human history. He wore his best diplomatic uniform, dark blue with silver trim. On his chest was a small pin showing Earth's flag. His briefcase held humanity's peaceful message and gifts for the Council. Jin had spent years preparing for this moment. Earth's leaders had chosen him carefully. He spoke 12 alien languages and understood their customs. The docking bay doors opened with a loud hiss. Jin stepped out of his ship onto the metal floor. The air smelled strange, like electricity and flowers mixed together. Alien beings walked everywhere. Some floated, some crawled, and some looked almost human. They all stared at Jin as he passed. Their eyes showed no kindness. A tall blue creature with 4 arms approached him. "You are the human representative," it said in a voice like breaking glass. "I am Council Assistant Velthar. Follow me. Do not touch anything. Do not speak unless spoken to." Jin nodded politely. "Thank you for welcoming me. I bring greetings from Earth and all humanity." Velthar's large eyes blinked slowly. "The Council will decide if you are welcome." They walked through long hallways filled with artwork from different worlds. Jin tried to memorize everything. Earth's scientists would want to know about all of this. Strange music played from hidden speakers. The ceiling showed moving pictures of space battles and conquered planets. The council chamber was enormous. 12 raised platforms surrounded a small area in the center. On each platform sat members of the galaxy's most powerful species. Jin recognized them from his studies. The crystal-like Zethkari glowed with cold light. The insect-like collective moved as one mind in many bodies. The lizard-like Drakmori wore armor covered in weapons. Only one species looked friendly. The Luminari were beings of pure light who rarely spoke. They flickered gently as Jin entered. "Approach, human," commanded a voice from above. Jin walked to the center of the chamber. A spotlight made him squint. The council members looked down at him like judges examining a criminal. The largest Drakmori spoke first. "I am War Leader Krexth. You claim to represent Earth. What does your primitive world offer the galaxy?" Jin opened his briefcase. "Honorable council members, humanity comes in peace. We offer our knowledge of medicine, farming, and solving conflicts without war. We have ended hunger on our world. Our doctors can cure diseases that kill millions. We want to learn from you and share what we know." The Zethkari leader made a sound like breaking ice. "Medicine? Farming? We have had these things for millions of years. What makes you think your infant species has anything to teach us?" Because sometimes new ideas come from fresh thinking," Jin replied calmly. "On Earth, our greatest discoveries came from cooperation between different groups. We believe diversity makes us all stronger." The collective spoke with one voice from many mouths. "Cooperation is inefficient. Unity through control is superior. Your world will be assigned to Sector 7 under Drakmori management. You will provide workers and resources. In exchange, we will protect you from yourselves." Jin's heart sank, but he kept his voice steady. "I must respectfully decline that offer. Humanity prefers partnership to control. We want to work together as equals, not as servants." Silence filled the chamber. The council members looked at each other with surprise. No species had ever refused their first offer. War Leader Krexth stood up. His armor clanked loudly. "You dare refuse the council's generosity? No species survives without our protection. Accept our offer or face the consequences." "I understand your power," Jin said. "But humanity believes in freedom. We have fought wars on our own world to protect this belief. We will not give it up now, even for safety. The Zethkari leader's glow turned angry red. This human shows dangerous thinking. Such ideas could spread to other worlds. We cannot allow rebellion against galactic order. What Jin did not know was that every word he spoke was being sent back to Earth through a tiny device in his brain. On Earth, President Sarah Chen watched from the Global Command Center. Beside her stood Admiral Park Sung-ho and General Kim Hae-jin. Their faces were grim. "They're going to kill him," Admiral Park said quietly. "Then they'll learn who we really are," President Chen replied. Back in the council chamber, the Drakmori leader pointed at Jin. "Human envoy, you are guilty of defying galactic law. The punishment for rebellion is death. However, we are merciful. Kneel before us, accept vassal status for your world, and you may live." Jin stood straighter. "I will not kneel to those who demand slavery. If you kill me for seeking friendship instead of surrender, then you prove that peace was never possible." The luminari began to flicker rapidly, trying to speak, but the other council members ignored them. War leader Krexth drew his weapon. "So be it. Let this human's death serve as a message to all worlds that might challenge council authority." As guards moved toward Jin, he closed his eyes and thought of Earth. He thought of blue skies and green forests. He thought of children playing in parks and families sharing meals. He thought of all the good things humanity wanted to protect and share with the galaxy. "I forgive you," he whispered. "But you don't understand what you're doing." The guards grabbed Jin roughly and dragged him from the chamber. As they pulled him away, he saw the luminari flickering desperately, trying to warn the council of something. But the other species were too excited by their show of power to listen. On Earth, alarms began to sound in command centers around the world. Red lights flashed on computer screens. Messages flew between secret facilities that most humans didn't even know existed. The galaxy was about to discover that they had just made the greatest mistake in their history. They had killed the ambassador of the one species that had been secretly protecting them all. The execution chamber was cold and dark. Jin Min-jun sat on a metal bench, his hands chained behind him. He had been here for 3 hours, listening to the council argue about his fate. Through the walls, he could hear their voices getting louder and angrier. Finally, the door opened. War leader Krexth walked in with 2 guards. "Human, the council has made its decision. You will die in 1 hour. Your execution will be broadcast across the galaxy so all species can see what happens to those who defy us." Jin looked up at the massive lizard warrior. "May I ask why you're so afraid of one small species asking for friendship?" Krexth's yellow eyes narrowed. "We fear nothing. We simply maintain order. Your kind thinks too much. You ask too many questions. You refuse to accept your place. Such thinking is dangerous." "Dangerous to whom?" Jin asked quietly. "To stability. To peace. To the way things have always been." The war leader turned toward the door. "Prepare yourself, human. In 1 hour, your rebellion ends." When Krexth left, Jin closed his eyes and spoke to the tiny device in his brain. "Earth Control. This is Ambassador Jin. They have chosen execution. Initiate Protocol 7. Tell my family I love them. Tell humanity that some things are worth dying for." On Earth, President Sarah Chen sat in the Global Defense Center, 2 miles underground. Around her, screens showed data from across the galaxy. Admiral Park Sung-ho stood beside her, his face carved from stone. "Madam President," said General Kim Hae-jin, "all deep space stations report ready. The Annihilation Protocol is armed and waiting for your command." President Chen watched the screen showing Jin's prison cell. 20 years we've been preparing for this moment. 20 years, hoping it would never come. "The Council has no idea what they're dealing with," Admiral Park said. "They think we're primitives who just learned to fly between stars." Let them keep thinking that for another hour, the president replied. Jin deserves to face death with dignity. After that, they'll learn the truth. In the council chamber, the 12 species were celebrating. The Zethkari glowed brighter with excitement. The collective buzzed with shared pleasure. Only the Luminari remained dim and worried. This will send a perfect message, said the Zethkari leader. No species will dare challenge us again. The Luminari finally managed to speak. Their voice like distant wind. You make a terrible mistake. This species is not what you think. We have observed them longer than you know. Thang, our time. War leader Krexth laughed, a sound like grinding rocks. What could one backward planet possibly do to us? They have a few dozen ships and one small colony. We command millions of worlds. That is exactly what worries us, the Luminari whispered. But no one listened. The execution was set to broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Billions of beings would watch to see what happened to species who refused to bow to council power. The chamber filled with representatives from major worlds, all eager to witness the lesson. Jin was brought in wearing simple clothes. His chains had been removed. He walked calmly to the center of the room, where a crystal device waited. The Zethkari execution crystal would drain his life force quickly and painlessly. It was considered merciful. Human, war leader Krexth announced for the cameras. You stand accused of defying galactic order and refusing lawful commands. Do you have final words? Jin looked around the chamber at all the alien faces watching him. Some showed cruel pleasure. Others seemed merely curious. A few looked uncomfortable. The Luminari flickered sadly in the corner. I do, Jin said clearly. I came here hoping we could be friends. I wanted our species to work together to make the galaxy better for everyone. You chose fear over hope, violence over peace. I forgive you for that choice, but I must warn you one last time. His voice grew stronger. You think you know what humanity is, but you don't. You see our small numbers and think we're weak. You see our kindness and think we're soft. You're wrong about both. We are few because we choose quality over quantity. We are kind because we choose to be, not because we have to be. The chamber grew quiet. Something in Jin's voice made even the Drakmori uneasy. For 200 years, we have watched this galaxy, Jin continued. We have seen wars that could have been prevented. We have seen species destroyed by conflicts that should never have started. We have seen corruption and cruelty from those who claim to bring order. We hoped to change this from within. You have made that impossible. War leader Krexth snarled. Enough talk. Activate the crystal. The Zethkari operator reached for the control. Jin closed his eyes and spoke his last words. I die, knowing that my sacrifice will save this galaxy from its greatest threat, you. The crystal flared. Jin Min-jun, humanity's first ambassador to the stars, died without making a sound. For exactly 30 seconds, the galaxy celebrated. The council had shown its power. Order would continue. The dangerous human thinking had been stopped. Then every communication system in the galaxy activated at once. President Chen's face appeared on billions of screens. Her voice was calm and cold. Citizens of the galaxy, I am Sarah Chen, President of Earth and Commander-in-Chief of the Human Defense Forces. 1 hour ago, the Galactic Council executed our ambassador for the crime of seeking peace. The council chamber erupted in panic. This was impossible. Earth was supposed to be primitive, President Chen continued. The council has proven itself unfit to govern. It responds to diplomacy with murder, to friendship with violence, to hope with cruelty. As of this moment, the Human Defense Forces are relieving the Council of Authority over galactic affairs. The screens changed to show massive space stations appearing around every council homeworld. Ships materialized from nowhere, surrounding military bases and government centers. Weapons platforms that had been invisible for decades suddenly announced their presence. You have 72 hours to surrender all weapons and step down from power, President Chen announced. Any resistance will be stopped. Any harm to civilians will be punished. Any attempt to destroy records or evidence will be prevented. War Leader Krex stared at the screens in horror. Impossible. They're just one world. We've monitored them for years. Admiral Park's face appeared next to the president's. You've monitored what we let you see. For 2 centuries, humanity has been the galaxy's silent guardian. We've prevented 17 major wars, stopped 34 genocides, and saved countless worlds from disasters you never even knew about. We did this in secret because we hoped you could be reformed. The truth hit the Council like a physical blow. Humanity hadn't been hiding because they were weak. They'd been hiding because they were strong. Too strong to trust themselves with open power until they had no other choice. President Chen's final words echoed across the galaxy. Jin Minjun died believing in peace. In his memory, we will give you one chance to surrender with dignity. After that, we do whatever is necessary to protect the innocent beings of this galaxy from their own governments. The countdown had begun. War Leader Krex stood in the Council's military command center, staring at screens that showed impossible things. Around every major Council world, human ships had appeared from nowhere. Not small scout vessels, but massive warships that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen. Where did they come from? He roared at his officers. Our sensors showed nothing an hour ago. Sir, stammered a young Drakmori technician. They're not showing up on our long-range scanners even now. It's like they're not really there. But our eyes can see them. Captain Li Yun-Su stood on the bridge of the HDF Seoul, one of humanity's Guardian-class vessels. Her ship was 15 kilometers long and had been hiding in plain sight just outside the Council's main system for 3 years. Advanced stealth technology made it invisible to Council sensors while allowing it to monitor everything. Communications, she called to her bridge crew. Open a channel to the Council fleet approaching our position. The main screen flickered to show a Drakmori admiral surrounded by his war staff. His scaled face was twisted with rage and confusion. And Intel knew. Human vessel. The admiral snarled. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed. You face the combined might of 3,000 warships. Captain Lee smiled sadly. Admiral Torvek, I am Captain Li Yun-Su of the Human Defense Forces. I've been watching your fleet for the past hour. You have 2,847 ships, not 3,000. 37 of your vessels have engine problems that your crews haven't reported yet. 112 are carrying more weapons than regulations allow. The admiral's mouth fell open. How could she know such details about his own fleet? I know these things, Captain Lee continued, because my people have been watching over this galaxy for 200 years. We've prevented your wars, stopped your disasters, and saved your people more times than you can imagine. We hoped we would never have to reveal ourselves. Lies, Admiral Torvek shouted. Humans are a primitive species that barely discovered spaceflight. Captain Lee touched a control on her chair. Around the Admiral's fleet, space began to shimmer. Slowly, like ghosts becoming solid, more human ships appeared. Not dozens, but thousands. They had been there all along, invisible and watching. Admiral, Captain Lee said gently, in your war with the Zethkari 5 years ago, do you remember the mysterious equipment failures that stopped your final assault on their homeworld? The Admiral's face went pale. How do you know about that? Because we caused those failures. Your computers had been programmed to destroy every Zethkari city from orbit. Instead of 12 billion deaths, your weapons shut down and forced you to negotiate peace. You called it a miracle. All across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening. Human ships revealed themselves around every major military base, every government center, every strategic location. The galaxy's great powers found themselves facing a species they had dismissed as primitives. On the collective homeworld, Commander Park Ji-min met with the Hive Queen. The vast insect ruler sat on a throne made of crystal and bone, surrounded by millions of her children. "How long have you been watching us?" the queen asked, through her translator. "Since your species first left your homeworld 4 centuries ago," Commander Park replied. "We've been preventing you from expanding too fast and causing ecological disasters. The natural plagues that stopped your colony ships from stripping inhabited worlds? Those were our work. Thanks for watching. Until 9. The queen's compound eyes flickered with understanding. The colony ships that got lost and found uninhabited worlds instead? The ones that discovered perfect planets just when we needed them most? We guided them there. Humanity believes every species deserves room to grow, but not at the expense of others. We've been quietly managing galactic expansion to prevent the wars that would have killed billions." Similar revelations occurred throughout the galaxy. The Zeth-Kari learned that their greatest scientific discoveries had been influenced by human researchers working in secret. The energy crisis that nearly destroyed their civilization 20 years ago had been solved by technology gifts they thought came from their own scientists. The peaceful Luminari, who had always suspected something, finally met with Admiral Park Seung-ho in person. "We knew you were there," the Luminari representative whispered like starlight. "Your presence felt like warmth in the cold void, but we never understood how extensive your influence was." Admiral Park nodded. "Your people were the only ones who never needed our intervention to prevent catastrophes. You've been our inspiration for what the galaxy could become. That's why we hoped the Council could be reformed instead of replaced." "And now?" the Luminari asked. "Now we do what we should have done long ago. Take direct responsibility for the galaxy's protection instead of hiding in the shadows." The human revelation wasn't just about ships and technology. Evidence began pouring out from thousands of worlds. Secret archives opened, revealing the true history of the past 2 centuries. Every major disaster that had been mysteriously averted, every war that had ended unexpectedly, every plague that had been cured by sudden scientific breakthroughs, all of it had human fingerprints. Dr. Cho Min-kyung, head of the Human Medical Corps, appeared on medical networks across the galaxy. "For 200 years, we have been fighting diseases, plagues, and genetic disorders on thousands of worlds. Every time you thought your scientists made a breakthrough, every time a cure appeared just when you needed it most, it was because human researchers were working day and night to help." The evidence was overwhelming. Genetic markers in supposedly extinct viruses showed human interference. Medical databases contained research that was decades ahead of what local scientists could have achieved. Food distribution networks that had prevented famines were controlled by companies that didn't officially exist. On Earth, President Chen stood before the Global Assembly. Representatives from every human nation watched as she explained the truth about their species' secret mission. "For 2 centuries, we have carried the burden of galactic guardianship in secret. Our children grew up not knowing that their parents were working to prevent interstellar wars. Our scientists dedicated their lives to solving problems on worlds they would never visit. Our soldiers stood ready to defend species that didn't even know we existed." She gestured to a wall, showing images from across the galaxy. Human medical teams treating alien diseases, human engineers fixing failing infrastructure, human diplomats secretly negotiating peace treaties between hostile species. "We did this because we believed that with great power comes great responsibility. When we first detected galactic civilization, we realized we had advantages in technology, medicine, and social organization that could help everyone. But we also realized that revealing ourselves too early could cause panic, resistance, or dependence." General Kim Hee-jin stepped forward. "We spent 2 centuries hoping that galactic civilization would mature enough that we could reveal ourselves as partners instead of rulers. The Council's execution of Ambassador Jin proves that time has run out. They've forced us to choose between continued secrecy and direct action. The room fell silent as the weight of humanity's secret sacrifice became clear. Every human had been part of the greatest humanitarian mission in galactic history, and most of them hadn't even known it. Back in space, the Council fleets found themselves completely surrounded, but not attacked. Human ships maintained perfect formations, weapons powered, but not aimed. It was a show of overwhelming force, combined with absolute restraint. Captain Lee opened communications with the Council fleets one final time. To all Council military forces, you have 6 hours to power down weapons and return to port. Any ship that fires on human vessels will be disabled, not destroyed. Any ship that threatens civilian populations will be stopped immediately. Any ship that tries to run will be followed and peacefully captured. This is not conquest, she continued. This is protective custody. For 200 years, we have been the galaxy's silent guardians. Now, we must be its visible ones. Jin Min-jun died believing in peace. In his memory, we will give you every chance to surrender with honor. The galaxy held its breath as humanity's true nature was revealed. They weren't conquerors or destroyers. They were the guardians who had been protecting everyone all along. Finally forced to step out of the shadows by a council too corrupt to deserve the power it wielded. Admiral Torvek stared at the screens showing human ships surrounding his fleet. 3,000 of the galaxy's most powerful warships faced twice as many human vessels that had appeared from nowhere. His weapons officers reported the same impossible thing over and over. Their targeting systems couldn't lock onto the human ships. "Sir," his chief engineer called out. "They're broadcasting something on all frequencies. It's not a surrender demand. It's an instruction manual?" The main screen filled with technical diagrams. A calm human voice explained how Council ships could safely power down their weapons without triggering explosive charges or damaging their systems. "This is Admiral Park Sung-ho of the Human Defense Forces," the voice continued. "We're sending you detailed instructions for safe surrender, because we don't want anyone to die unnecessarily. Your ships are designed to explode if powered down incorrectly. We've already disabled those systems remotely, but the instructions will help your crews understand what we've done." Admiral Torvek felt his blood turn cold. The humans had already been inside his ship's computer systems. They could have destroyed his entire fleet at any moment. "Admiral," his communication officer reported with a shaking voice, "we're receiving similar messages from human commanders throughout the galaxy. They're all offering detailed surrender instructions to prevent casualties." On the bridge of the HDF Seoul, Captain Lee watched her tactical displays. Red dots showed Council ships throughout the galaxy. Green dots showed human vessels moving into protective positions. Blue dots marked civilian populations that needed shielding from potential fighting. "Status report," she called to her bridge crew. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Kim So-young, 70% of Council military forces are following surrender instructions. 20% are holding position, but haven't powered down. 10% are trying to run or fight. Any civilian casualties? None, ma'am. Human ships are intercepting all weapons, fire, and debris. Emergency medical teams are standing by on all worlds where fighting might occur. Captain Lee nodded. This was exactly what Admiral Park had planned. The humans weren't trying to destroy the Council fleets, just neutralize them safely while protecting innocent people caught in the middle. On the collective homeworld, something unprecedented was happening. For the first time in their species' history, the Hive Queen was experiencing doubt. The collective had always believed that unity through control was the only way to achieve peace. Now, they faced beings who had achieved peace through cooperation and hidden protection. Commander Park Ji-min stood in the Queen's throne chamber, surrounded by millions of collective drones. Each drone was part of the Queen's mind, making this conversation a discussion with an entire species. "Your methods make no sense," the Queen said through her translator. You had the power to rule us all, but you chose to hide and serve. Why? Because ruling and serving are not the same thing, Commander Park replied. A ruler takes power for their own benefit. A servant uses power to help others. We chose to be servants. We chose to be servants. Our Gaptavin. We chose. The queen's massive form shifted on her crystal throne. But servants are weak. They can be ordered and controlled. Are we weak? Commander Park asked gently. Your entire military cannot leave this system because our ships surround it. Your computer networks answer to our technicians. Your food production depends on seeds we've been secretly improving for decades. If we're servants who could end your civilization with a thought. The translation devices carried the Queen's confusion to her millions of drones. Then, why don't you? Why serve those who could be enslaved? One. Because slavery is wrong, even when you have the power to enforce it. Because every species deserves freedom, even from us. Because true strength means protecting others, not controlling them. Similar conversations were happening throughout the galaxy. Human commanders met with alien leaders, not to demand surrender, but to explain why surrender was the only safe option for everyone involved. The Zethkari crystalline assembly gathered in their great hall, their crystal bodies pulsing with confused light. They had always believed that advanced technology gave them the right to rule primitive species. Now, they faced a species whose technology was centuries ahead of their own, but who had used that advantage to protect, rather than conquer. We have been fools, admitted Elder Krelthos, his crystal form flickering with shame colors. We thought might made right, but these humans show us that might makes responsibility. The first major breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The Luminari, who had always opposed council violence, began broadcasting messages to their allies throughout the galaxy. People of the stars, their leader transmitted. The humans speak truth. We have watched them for centuries, seen their secret works of mercy and protection. They are not conquerors wearing masks of peace. They are guardians forced to reveal themselves because the Council's corruption could no longer be tolerated. The Luminaries' words carried weight because everyone knew they were incapable of lying. Their energy-based bodies could not exist while holding false beliefs. The humans prevented the Great War of Sectors 7 and 8, the Luminari continued. They stopped the plague that would have killed billions on the Outer Rim worlds. They guided lost colony ships to safety when their governments abandoned them. They have earned the right to make these demands. Within 6 hours, 40% of the galaxy's military forces had surrendered to human peacekeepers. Another 30% were negotiating terms. The remaining 30% were holding position but had stopped all aggressive actions. The real test came when war leader Krexth made his final desperate move. Rather than surrender, he ordered his personal fleet to attack civilian targets, hoping to force the humans to choose between protecting innocents and capturing him. Captain Zhao Wei-Ming, commanding the HDF Beijing, watched Drakmori ships move toward a mining colony with 2 million inhabitants. Sir, her weapons officer reported, Drakmori fleet is charging weapons and targeting civilian infrastructure. Understood, Captain Zhao replied calmly. Activate protective protocols. Disable their ships without destroying them. Priority 1 is civilian protection. What happened next became legend throughout the galaxy. The human ships moved with impossible precision, placing themselves between Drakmori weapons and civilian targets. Every shot fired by Krexth's forces was absorbed by human shield generators or deflected into empty space. At the same time, human boarding teams materialized directly onto Drakmori ships. Not through airlocks or docking tubes, but through advanced teleportation technology that the galaxy had thought was pure fiction. Within minutes, every Drakmori ship was under human control. Their crews were unharmed but secured. Their weapons were disabled but not destroyed. Their ships were captured, but not damaged. War leader Krext found himself standing in his own bridge, facing a young human woman who couldn't have been older than 25. "I am Lieutenant Park Min-ji, of the Human Defense Forces," she said politely. "War leader Krext, you are under arrest for attempted genocide and crimes against civilian populations. You will be treated with respect and dignity while awaiting trial." "How?" Krext gasped. "How did you get past my shields? My armor? My personal weapons?" Lieutenant Park looked sad. "War leader, for 200 years we've been stopping people like you from hurting innocent beings. Did you really think we wouldn't have learned how to do it perfectly by now?" The final council holdouts surrendered within hours of Krext's capture. News of how gently the humans had treated even their worst enemies spread quickly. Council soldiers who expected to die in battle found themselves offered medical care and proper food. Officers who thought they would be executed were given comfortable quarters and legal representation. Admiral Park appeared on communication networks across the galaxy for one final announcement. "To all beings of the galaxy," he said, "the military phase of this transition is complete. No Council military force remains active. No government installations remain under Council control. Most importantly, no civilians have been harmed in this process." The Admiral gestured to screens showing human medical teams, engineers, and aid workers already active on hundreds of worlds. Beginning immediately, human transition teams will work with local governments to maintain essential services. Food distribution will continue. Medical care will be provided. Transportation networks will operate normally. This is not an occupation. It is a careful transfer of power to prevent chaos and suffering. Former council leaders will be treated fairly and given opportunities to participate in the new galactic government we will build together. Their knowledge and experience will be valuable in creating a system that serves all species equally. The Admiral paused, his expression growing solemn. This transition happened because Ambassador Jin Min-jun died. Believing in peace over war, cooperation over control, service over rulership. We will honor his memory by proving that power can be used to protect rather than oppress. The galaxy's age of hidden guardians is over. The age of visible protectors has begun. For the first time in galactic history, a change of government had occurred with 0 civilian casualties. The most powerful military transition ever attempted had been completed with more care for enemy soldiers than most armies showed their own troops. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had liberated it. 6 months after Jin Min-jun's execution, President Sarah Chen stood before the largest gathering in galactic history. Representatives from 10,000 worlds had come to the neutral station of New Harmony to witness the birth of a new government. The meeting hall was vast enough to hold beings of every size and shape, from tiny crystal entities to massive gas-based life forms. "Citizens of the galaxy," President Chen began, her words translated into 40,000 languages simultaneously. "We gather today, not as conquerors and conquered, but as neighbors planning our shared future." In the front row sat the former council members. War leader Krext wore simple clothes instead of his armor, but his chains had been removed months ago. The Zeth Kari leaders glowed with subdued colors of thoughtfulness rather than anger. Even the collective queen attended, her personal drones keeping her connected to her homeworld. 6 months ago, humanity revealed itself as your hidden guardians, President Chen continued. We had hoped never to take direct control, but the murder of our ambassador forced our hand. Today, we begin the process of returning power to where it belongs, with all of you working together. Admiral Park stood at the president's side. Over the past months, he had overseen the most complex governmental transition in galactic history. Not a single world had lost essential services. Not one species had been forced to change their way of life. Crime rates had actually decreased as human peacekeepers worked alongside local law enforcement. The new Galactic Assembly will operate differently than the old Council, Admiral Park explained. Every world with intelligent life gets a voice. Regardless of their technology level or military power. Decisions will be made through cooperation, not domination. A representative from one of the small rim worlds stood up. What about species like ours? We have nothing to offer but our loyalty. How do we matter in a galaxy of advanced civilizations? Captain Lee Yun-soo, now promoted to Admiral Lee, answered from her position as Director of Galactic Development. Every species matters because every perspective is valuable. Some of our greatest advances in agriculture came from studying how pre-industrial worlds manage their forests. Some of our best medical techniques were inspired by traditional healing methods from worlds that never developed spaceflight. She gestured to a screen showing images from across the galaxy. The new assembly won't be about advanced species helping primitive ones. It will be about all of us helping each other. A world that's mastered energy production can share with worlds that understand biology better. A species that's learned to live in harmony with nature can teach others who've damaged their environments. The Luminary representative flickered with approval. This is how the galaxy should have always worked. Cooperation, creating strength, not competition, creating weakness. But the real test of humanity's intentions came when war leader Krexth stood to speak. The hall fell silent. This was the being who had ordered Jin's execution, who had tried to attack civilians, who had represented everything wrong with the old system. I have spent these months studying human behavior, Krexth said slowly. I expected to be executed or imprisoned. Instead, I was given comfortable quarters, good food, and access to any information I wanted. Human guards treated me with respect even though I had tried to kill their people. His voice grew stronger. I was allowed to visit other former council members. I could speak freely with representatives from my own species. I could even communicate with family on my homeworld. The humans' only requirement was that I attend education sessions about different forms of government. Krexth looked directly at President Chen. For 60 years, I believed that strength meant the ability to force others to obey. These humans showed me that true strength means protecting those who cannot protect themselves. They defeated our fleets, captured our leaders, and took control of our governments, and then used that power to make life better for everyone, including their former enemies. The former war leader's next words stunned the assembly. I formally request to serve in the new Galactic Assembly's peacekeeping forces. I want to learn how to use strength to protect instead of control. Murmurs filled the hall. If Krexth could change, anyone could. President Chen nodded. Your request will be considered by the Peacekeeping Council. But first, you must earn the trust of those you once threatened. Captain Kim Hae-won will oversee your training if you're serious about this change. Captain Kim stepped forward. She was small and quiet, but everyone in the hall knew her reputation. She had personally prevented 17 wars through negotiation and had never fired a weapon in anger. War Leader Krexth, Captain Kim said gently. The first lesson of peacekeeping is learning to see every being as worthy of protection, even those who hate you. Are you prepared for that? I am learning, Krexth replied. The humans protected me, even after I tried to kill civilians. If they can show mercy to their enemies, perhaps I can learn to show it to mine. The ceremony continued with the formal establishment of the new government. Unlike the old council's hierarchy, the assembly would operate on principles humanity had spent centuries developing. Every species would have representation. Major decisions would require broad consensus rather than simple majority rule. Military forces would exist only to protect, never to conquer. Dr. Cho Min-kyung, now serving as Galactic Health Coordinator, presented the new medical sharing protocols. Every world's medical knowledge will be freely available to all others. Every breakthrough in treating disease or injury will be shared immediately. No being will die from a condition that another species knows how to cure. Commander Park Ji-min, appointed as Agricultural Development Director, explained the food security initiatives. No world will face famine, while others have surplus. We will establish seed banks, sharing networks, and emergency distribution systems that ensure everyone has enough to eat. The Zethkari leader, Elder Krelthos, stood to address the assembly. My species has spent millions of years believing that our advanced technology gave us the right to rule others. The humans showed us that true advancement means using technology to serve others. The Crystalline Assembly pledges our knowledge and resources to this new cooperative effort. Similar pledges came from species across the galaxy. The Collective Queen offered their organizational abilities to help coordinate the massive undertaking. Peaceful species like the Luminari volunteered to serve as mediators in disputes. Even former military powers like the Drakmori committed their fleets to protecting trade routes and defending against pirates. But the most important moment came when a young Zethkari named Velnira approached the podium. She had been one of Jin Minjun's guards during his imprisonment, and her crystal form flickered with nervous energy. "Honorable Assembly," she began, "I was present when the human ambassador was executed. I watched him die with dignity, forgiving those who killed him. His final words were that he hoped his death would teach us something valuable." She paused, gathering courage. "I have learned that lesson. Jin Minjun died believing that peace was possible, that different species could work together, that understanding was stronger than fear. Today, this assembly proves he was right." Velnira's form began to glow brighter. "I request permission to establish the Jin Minjun Memorial Academy for Galactic Diplomacy. It will teach young beings from every species how to resolve conflicts without violence, how to build bridges between different cultures, and how to turn enemies into friends." The hall erupted in approval. The idea spread quickly through the crowd, with representatives from dozens of species volunteering to support the academy. President Chen smiled as she watched the galaxy's peoples planning their shared future. "The academy is approved. It will be built here at New Harmony, where all species can easily reach it. Its first lesson will be that Ambassador Jin's death was not meaningless if it leads to lasting peace." Admiral Park stepped forward with the final announcement. "The Human Defense Forces will be reorganized as the Galactic Protection Corps. Our ships will continue to guard against threats from outside the galaxy and respond to natural disasters. But our most important mission will be protecting the principles we establish here today. Every officer in the Protection Corps will train at the Jin Minjun Academy. They will learn that their power exists only to serve others, never to control them. They will swear an oath to protect all species equally, to use force only when necessary, and to always seek peaceful solutions first." The ceremony concluded with the lighting of the memorial flame, a crystal torch that would burn continuously in memory of all those who had died fighting for peace. Jin Minjun's name was inscribed first, but space remained for others who would sacrifice for the cause of galactic cooperation. As representatives began to leave, making plans for implementing the new government, President Chen stood quietly before the memorial flame. Admiral Park joined her. "Do you think he would be proud?" the Admiral asked. President Chen watched the flame flicker with colors, representing every species in the galaxy. Jin believed that every being was capable of choosing cooperation over conflict. Look around. Species that have been enemies for millennia are making plans to work together. Former conquerors are volunteering to become protectors. I think he would say, this was worth dying for. The galaxy entered its new age with hope instead of fear, cooperation instead of domination, and protection instead of conquest. Humanity had gained ultimate power and used it to serve others rather than rule them. Jin Minjun's dream of galactic friendship had become reality. His sacrifice had not been in vain. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, as if celebrating the birth of a truly peaceful civilization that would endure for millions of years to come. In the academy that would bear his name, young beings from across the galaxy would learn that the greatest strength was not the power to destroy enemies, but the wisdom to turn enemies into friends. They would carry his message to the farthest reaches of space. That peace was always possible for those brave enough to choose it.